This is going to be a long one. Sorry about that. It's taken me a long time to decide about posting or also talking about, bringing up, but the time has come and I need to be real with y'all. So I'm going to tell you my deconversion story. Why I no longer believe in the Bible, and why I have become, for pretty much all accounts, an atheist. So it started back in about 2013, several years ago, and I was part of the Fundamental Baptist movement, a chain of churches. My home church, Heritage Baptist Church, is a great church. Not one of the churches that was involved with this type of scandal, although they did have some hiccups along the way. They were, by and large, a good church, and I love everybody there. Just so that we're clear and out of the gate and know that I do cherish the friendships I made there. I enjoy talking to people from them still, and do not hate any of you by any means. But so my qualm is not with Heritage Baptist Church or the people I grew up with in Montana. My qualm is with my movement in general of churches, which is the Independent Fundamental Baptist movement. In 2013, the pastor of megachurch First Baptist Church in Hammond, Pastor Jack Scott, committed a pretty bad crime and was sent to jail. Rightfully so. It was found out and he was sent to jail. Which was probably the first big blow to my faith that I had had. And you're like, well, you're following a man. You're not following Jesus. You should follow Jesus. You shouldn't follow a man. Man can fail. And you're right. And I've heard that before. And like I said, this is a series of events that led to me becoming a atheist. So the first blow was having the man of God that had dictated a lot of my life up till then. 2004 to 2008 was definitely a heavy point in as far as that doctrine goes. I went to Anderson College for 4 years. I love to please people, and I knew that by completing my degree there, I would be pleasing my pastor as well as my parents, which I really did want to do. I like to please people and make them happy, and I knew that would do so, even though I knew deep down that I should have only gone for 1 year and then switched to another secular career. Anyway, it was the first big blow to my faith. Man of God who I looked up to inspired, who had done more as far as the movement goes to propagate the gospel around the world, and also had helped try to kind of shape my Christian faith. It was one that we always looked up to, that as kind of a hero of the faith for his actions and what he was doing, committed something he should never have done. Never have happened. Never should have happened. You know. And then as I went further down the road, some of my friends on Facebook that went to the college with me, who I believed were some of the best or most fervent, most adamant followers from listening to them personally preach on night bus or knowing their stance in the dormitories. These people converted, or deconverted, I should say, to a more atheistic standpoint. And I was surprised. I was shocked. I didn't know what had happened. So I asked them, and I might mention them later in the comments if they give me permission to do so, but for now, I'll leave them anonymous. And I asked them, I said, why? Why did you change? What changed your mind? Why did you change? And they gave me good reasons, and they gave me their reasons for the change and understanding and things, and I understood that. As we moved along, I started to question more. I was still, up until about 2018, 2019, and probably 2018 is definitely, 2019 is where I'd say it stopped. I was going to church pretty much every week. still doing the things that I believed or had done for forever. Go to church, read your Bible as much as you can. As much as I could, and pray. Study. I still had a very personal belief in God. I believed the Christian God. I believed Him 100%. I believed in my faith. I was a Christian. I was still sold 100%. Still doing, for the most part, the good things that I needed to do in order to maintain my church status. So, moving further past that, we have Scoppins, and then I have fellows of mine deconverting, and as I went further and further along in the movement, I heard more and more stories of other faithful brethren, of people of faith that I look up to, that I aspire to, that had things happen in them, in their churches, or simply commit bad acts themselves, or accused of so. And while I don't necessarily believe everything that happened with some of them, getting to know some of the survivors of those incidents, and feeling them, hearing their stories, some of which I know personally, from Hyles Anderson or such, I was shocked again. I was like, these are Christian places. These are supposed to be our bastions of faith. These are churches, persons we put belief in. These are the ones that are leading the charge, so to speak. Yeah, of course we follow Christ. Yeah, I'm sorry, and God bless you, and I'm praying for you. Yeah, those things were said, and I said them. But hearing their stories, and more stories that were coming out, and not just saying the Me Too movement. Like, I take everything with a grain of salt. But I knew some of these people personally. And what had happened to them was unforgivable. Purely, simply unforgivable. I'm talking about rape. I'm talking about some child, problems, like those kind of issues. And they were part of this movement. They were part of this independent fundamental Baptist movement that we hid these people from. These people were part of this movement. And that began to disenfranchise myself with the movement in general. I didn't want to be part of the movement that had a bad reputation. That had such a horrible history with it. And that kept on going with the history of this. I don't want to be a part of that organization that doesn't punish the people, that they would move the pastor away, or they would do something else in order to get him out of there, and to protect the brethren so that we can continue the ministry, because he made a mistake, but we need to protect him, and he's said he's sorry with God, and he's right with God now, and a crime is a crime. And because of that, a crime is a crime. I don't believe that God's justice should overrule the justice of a land. The justice of our land should prevail. Those things should be released to the authorities. They should be put in jail. They should be taken to justice through the legal system that we have available in our country. I don't believe our legal system is perfect, but it does tend to be fair. We do believe innocent until proven guilty, and often they seem to want to hide it from proven innocent until guilty because, on the surface, of course, if someone's being moved away for a reason that is connected to sexual violence or sexual crimes, then that means they have something to hide. Or they committed the act, and of course, God giving them a second chance is taking them away from the criminal system doing its job. So these were kind of the starting points of where I started to question what kind of life I wanted for myself, what kind of belief system I wanted to have, things that I thought I had well determined and established in my own life, things that I thought I was sold on, But these things kept shaking me. I couldn't find my place in the church congregation as well as I used to, and it just wasn't meshing as well. So then I began starting to listen to debates with atheists versus Christians, or atheists Christians versus Muslims, or you name it, including the likes of Ken Hamm versus Bill Nye, and also Ken Hovind, of Young Earth Creationist at the Dinosaur Museum. And I started listening to Matt Dillahunty of the Atheist Experience, and also Cosmic Skeptic, Rationality Rules. I can name several other channels that I listen to. But as I listened the more and more often to the debate, I hate to say it, but the Christian side would lose. And often by very logical, very sound argument. That was often provable by science, or that took the side of science. Which, I know science can be proven wrong, but that's the wonderful thing about it, is that science can be proven wrong. It looks for fallacies. It looks for problems inside of itself. It's always it wants to be. It is not always, but it wants to be self-correcting by and large. So as I begin to kind of delve into this and learn about science of things I haven't learned about before, and evolution and creationism, and those were often the debates that were had, I couldn't fight the evidence. The evidence of the cosmology, the astronomers that look in the sky that say we're thousands of years away from the other planets, and billions of years. I can understand that. The logic makes sense. The science is there. I can understand a lot of the biological components that we do have certain shared traits with other, not just mammals in general, not just monkeys, as people will say, but we have shared traits with a lot of things on Earth. A lot. And I heard stories of Red and Link. I heard Paulogia. He's another one that gives good arguments about this. Talks about and often contradicts answers in Genesis. Aron Ra, and a couple other ones. Seth, I forget his name. But as I listened to these, and as the science was proving to me, to my mind, and logically, that the Earth cannot be as young as we claim it to be. My mind, went further and further. So then, what is my basis for belief? And as we look at the history of the gospel, like the history of the Bible in general, I can't take you today to Jerusalem or to Greece or to where the Bible is located. I can't take you and show you what the Bible actually says. And that's a problem. That's scary. That's how should I say it? It's frightening, because I don't know the whole basis of what I base my belief on, the Bible. I don't know how it came to be. It's a group of stories, and I don't necessarily know that those stories are historically accurate or historically true anymore. For one thing, the New Testament is written in Greek. Greek is not the language of Rome. And the Greeks are awesome and very well-known storytellers. If I name classic literature, such as the Iliad and the Odyssey, or Homer, or other astrologers and philosophical greats of the past, most of them are Greek. And the Greeks are polytheists. The Greeks are polytheistic people. They believe in Zeus, they believe in Athena, they believe in those gods, which I find historical. I know they're not true either, but I find them compelling. I like listening to stories about Greek gods. And then the New Testament is written in Greek and is filled with stories of a very fantastic thing. And who else has stories of gods doing fantastic things? The Greeks do. Taking that from the pack of the Hebrew, the Old Testament, which is written in Hebrew, which is not the same language as the New Testament, which is a very telling fact, because otherwise all Christians would be Judaism, would be full of Judaism, in my opinion, because if the Jews accepted Christ and the Greeks, then the New Testament and Old Testament would have been written in the same language. They would both be in Hebrew, like the Quran is, or other faith texts are written in the sole language of their home country of origin. They're not written in other languages to start out with. They may get translated, but they are written in one language to start out with. And the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament appear to be very different people. There's a video I watch on YouTube. How many people did God kill in the Bible? And if you consider how many people that God killed, especially in the Old Testament, the number will blow your mind. Adding on top of that, the estimates from the Ark Encounter, which I went to as well, as kind of a test of faith. I wanted to be proven wrong. I wanted to reaffirm that what I had believed for how many years was correct. But the fact that it's in Hebrew, one, and this God was an angry God, a jealous God, a mad God, a God that killed literally more people than the population of the earth. If you take the answers in Genesis account, not my word for it. Look at how many people they said were on the pre-flood world. Look how many people they said were estimated to be alive. It's more than the population of Earth today. So imagine a God that loves us killing the entire population of the Earth. The entire population. Everybody. Except for 8 people. Which brings me to the Ark Encounter. Oh boy, here we go. So I went there to affirm my faith. I'll give a couple examples here. I went to, on the trip, the week I did my road trip, I went to the World War I Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. Wonderful place. If you ever have the chance to stop in Kansas City and see the World War I Museum, do it. Do it. I promise you, you won't regret it. Stories of man overcoming hatred and things. Stories of men fighting for what they believe was right. Wonderful stories. And in fact, it is so full of information that it's an information overload. I can't tell you everything about World War I now. I still don't know. There was too much information, too much knowledge in that 5-6 hours I spent at the museum to fill my mind, and more so. I couldn't comprehend it all. I couldn't overtake it all. And this is World War I. This is a historical event. And then I went to the Creation Museum. I went to the Ark Encounter. Not the Creation Museum, sorry. I didn't go to the Creation Museum. I went to the Ark Encounter, which is arguably the best place we have to argue for the proposition of Noah's flood. Isn't it? I mean, it's a recreation, as best as Ken Hamm could do, of Noah's Ark. And what I found there, I took in it today. It wasn't information overload. I already knew a lot of the Bible. I already knew a lot of what was said. I knew it. I've been, as the Bible said, thy word have I hidden in my heart that I might not sin against God. Well, guess what? I always won, for the most part, the memory chances. I think Kenny Dane beat me a couple times. But I won, for the most part, most of the memory challenges in VBS, or when it came to camps. You guys know this. I know the Bible. I know what it says. I've read it cover to cover multiple times. I've heard it preached cover to cover multiple times. There's 32 years of life that I was in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, extra services. Noah's Ark. Okay. So here's a couple things I have wrong, or have a problem with Noah's Ark. The best shipbuilders, the best of the 18th century, during the height of shipbuilding, during the Pirates of the Caribbean era that you can think of, that built magnificent ships, that built a ship slightly smaller, but the largest wooden ship that we have record of being built. You can look it up. I don't know what its name is called, but look it up. It's the largest wooden ship that was built sometime during the 18th century, I'm pretty sure, the 1800s. It sank. It sank. The shipbuilders, which, mind you, are master shipbuilders of the time, building the great men of war and things that you can think of. You think of a giant wooden ship. It sank. They could not design a boat as big as Noah's Ark that was able to stay afloat. Secondly, the average zoo in America, which does not have as many species as Noah's Ark, has 59 employees. Look this up. You can Google it. Fact check me. Please do. In fact, I like to be wrong. Go ahead. 59 to 100 employees. Okay? 59 to 100 to take care of a zoo in America. Right? And those zoos do not have the amount of variety and the amount of animals that they said were on Noah's Ark. We're talking 850 animals for each of Noah's family members. 850. Now, I don't like puppies. I do like dogs, but they take a lot of work. Animals take a lot of work to care for, as anybody who's ever had to care for any animal can attest. They're not cheap, it's not easy, and it takes a lot of time. So you mean to tell me, and this is in the Ark Encounter, I'm not taking this fact out of myself, I have pictures, I read it, 850 people for every one person on the Ark, every person in Noah's family. A modern zoo today, I can't even imagine that. Could you imagine a modern zoo in America running with just 8 people? I'll tell you what happens. It's called Tiger King. Yeah, exactly. See how well that worked out? I don't think so. 850 different animals for one person? Now, they presented some very compelling arguments for mechanicalization of food and water, which I can understand and believe. I can get behind that. But you have to take into account that 850 per one, and some of their statistics are pretty high, because that's 7 of the kinds that they said, of certain kinds, and of course 2 of the other kinds, which of course then, as Bill Nye so wonderfully put, would have too much speciation in the past 4,000 years. We have too much speciation to account for the 2 of every kind that the Ark so wonderfully puts. It's just not possible. And then added to that, of course, the Ark is bigger than the biggest ship that we've ever built that sank. It's slightly smaller than the Titanic, which of course also sank. Just saying. It's unbelievable. It's just too much. And did God stop the animals from Jerry Springering after the boat? Like, of course we see animals killing each other today. Did God stop them? We don't know. We don't know. Did God stop them? Because you want to tell me that Tyrannosaurus has been on a boat for 40 days and 40 nights is not wanting to eat the flesh of another thing, even as a baby. You want to tell me that Tyrannosaurus doesn't want to tear a new one for everything when it gets off the Ark? Or a bear? Or some other animal? Yeah, it's just... it's just kind of beyond my suspension of disbelief, as I like to say. I couldn't... It's too far beyond that. And the fecal material. The fecal matter is also a problem. Noah's Ark did not have really a good way, in my opinion, of handling the fecal material for that many animals, as they claim. They showed demonstrations of how it could work, but, again, I have to suspend my disbelief in order to believe it. Because that's a lot of work. That's a huge 3 football fields, stacked on top of each other, boat full of animal feces with one window or a couple windows. And they talked about how the Ark might have had moon pools and might have had anchor stones. It didn't need to go anywhere, so, I get those arguments. I'm just saying it's very unlikely. And when we add pressure to things as well, like, here's another thing. Just heard this argument the other day. We would be looking for the bones of giants. We should find giant fossils. These men lived to be 800, 900 years old in Noah's day. Noah was like 500. And they were big people. The Bible talks about giants being alive in David's time. That David fought Goliath and his brothers, which were giants. So we should be finding giant bones all over the place. Giants. Like huge people that lived to be 700, 800 years old. We don't find them. And the pressure that's exerted from the entire earth being covered in water, I think would be overpowering to the plants and things that live on the bottom of that water. Even if it's only for 40 days, like it's still, we hardly ever make it down to Mariana's Trench, which is the deepest spot in the ocean. We don't make it down there very often. And that water was covering the entire earth? Come on, man. Like, really? It's covering everywhere, and the insects are supposed to survive that amount of pressure of water? They're supposed to survive that? Plants, other things are supposed to survive Mariana's Trench pressure at the bottom of the world? I find that hard to believe. Not to mention, as I heard this argument versus Ken Hovind the other day, about, as they talk about, and they mentioned as the Ark Encounter, but there's, of course, the world was moving at the time, kind of like peg leg, or the story where the Bible says the earth was divided. It doesn't mention how, but it just says it was. So they think it's kind of a Pangea thing, but they said that the earth is moving at this time, so they have all these volcanic activity under the water. We have things, bursting up out of the ocean. We have hot, and that was what his argument was about. That is, the tectonic movement causes tremendous heat. So if the world was covered in water and the water underneath it was all moving, that could cause a problem because there could be tremendous nuclear-powered heat underneath during the water movement time. We're talking massive amounts of heat. We're talking nuclear levels of heat. So, not just that. I mean, like I said, the more I heard about the Gospels and how they were historically inaccurate, how they were stories of a story of a story of a story, and how I was starting to make connections that, they were written by the Greeks, who were fantastic storytellers. Everybody loves a good story. Jesus is a great story. It really is. It's the best story, a lot of you will say. You're going to tell me that in the comments. You're going to say that Jesus is the best story, and I'm a idiot for not believing it anymore. There you go. There's my proof. The Greeks are great storytellers. There's no one denying that. No one's saying they're not. I know I'm not. I'm not. But these are secondhand accounts. These aren't eyewitness accounts. The books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, as much as I like to thought that they were, or as much as I did think that they were growing up, eyewitness accounts. They're not. They're stories of a story of a story. They're an ancient game of telephone. And if they got to the Greek ears, you better believe that them Greeks embellished the stories a little bit. More than a little bit. Because the Greeks are great storytellers and they like to tell fantastic stories. And they do. They still do. You ever listen to a Greek man's story, you're not going to be bored. But as I learned about this, and as I saw it in other religions, even the Quran, I talked to Muslims. I looked at the variety. And I did seek out for a while a variety of different denominations to go to, including non-denominational, which I can only describe to you as someone, if you wanted to go and buy Christianity off a shelf in a store, and you went to a store and you're like, man, I want Christianity, that's what the non-denominational churches are to me. And I still can't get it. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I cannot do Christian rock music. I can't. If it is too overtly Christian, my background of hymns and faith, which I like to sing still occasionally. They're really nice melodies, and I don't mind the words. Again, I'm not hating on all the Christians there. It's just, this is me. This is my thoughts. These are my beliefs. Now, I've changed. So, I can't do it. I just couldn't do the Christian rock thing. I just can't do it. It's like, okay, Jesus, 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 and then other words like our rock, our shield, our this, our that. I mean, come on, man. All right. And then set to a rock beat. I'm sorry. Again, it has to do with my upbringing, but I just can't do it. I can't do it. It either has to be, as I would have said back in the day, all bad or all good. It's got to be one or the other, but it can't be in between, and that's what Christian rock tries to do. Christian rap tries to do. I love God. Do you love God? What's wrong with you? Yeah, it's stupid. So, hearing about the actual truth of the Gospels, which not even Christian apologists deny. They don't deny that the Bible is not an eyewitness account. That's a problem for me. I need to know 100% that this happened. 100%, not a secondhand story, because there's plenty of those. Natives have them. Every culture in the world has them today. They're great at embellishing secondhand stories. Ask anybody who goes fishing. How big was the fish? It was this big, but they're holding the picture of the this is actually how big it was. But if you ask them, you hold your arms out wide and say this big. And then if you ask where you got caught, it was, of course, in the mouth. You kind of skirt the question. So let's go into some arguments, which I've heard and will hear. And that is the number one, which is the biggest one of the biggest ones that I used to use, and one that I have now found to be unreasonable, is that Pascal's wager, which is, if the Christian is right and their belief is wrong, if the Christian is wrong and their belief is wrong, they lose nothing. They don't lose anything. Because, of course, eternity, they just die, nothing happens. But if the atheist is wrong, or whoever is wrong, then we have an eternity to suffer in hell, which is, let me bring you to that point. So if the Christian's wrong, they lose nothing. If the atheist is wrong, he loses everything. Right? By that logic, you've got to apply that to other religions too. You've got to go to Islam. What if the Islamist is right? What if the Muslim's right? What if the Catholic is right? What if the Presbyterian's right? What if the Anabaptist is right? What if the other almost, 1,000 different varieties of Christianity, what if one of them is right? What if they're right? You still lose. If you chose the wrong sect of Christianity, you still lose. You didn't confess your sins to the priests. You lost your salvation because it was a not by faith salvation. You lost it because it was a by works salvation. And you have to believe right now. An Anabaptist, I called on the road. I saw a billboard traveling through, I think Missouri or Kansas or Illinois. I don't know. There's a billboard on the side of the road that says, Jesus is the way. Call us to find out now. I did. I spoke to an Anabaptist. He's a wonderful guy named Roger. If you're watching this, Roger, awesome. Good job presenting your faith. You did good. But he believes in a work of salvation. That, hey, however, you shouldn't be a soldier. You should believe in God, and you should show that every day. And you can lose your salvation. You can lose it. So who's right? Who is right? You all believe the Bible, or say you do. Do you? I don't know. But as I learn more about the historical evidence for the Bible, the more and more I thought that it just can't be accurate. It can't be right. It can't be. And it's not that I didn't want to believe that. I just, as Pascal's wager originally was, is that you have to fake it till you make it, which is a very Christian thing to say. Fake it till you make it. And man, I tried. I tried for years to fake it till I made it. I mean, I wanted to be part of the team. I wanted to be be something. You know why I went to Hyles Anderson College? Was to be a missionary to the country of Mongolia. I wanted to be something. I thought I would come out of Hyles Anderson College a super Christian. That's why I went there. I went there because my pastor said, don't join the Marine Corps. Go to Hyles Anderson College because that's what you want to do. You want to become a missionary, right? And I did. I wanted to become a missionary. I thought I did. So here we are. I'm hearing these arguments. I'm hearing my faith be destroyed very logically, very reasonably by these men. And these men are not horrible. I met a man in the Air Force. I'm not going to share his name. But he's one of the happiest guys I know. Easily. Top 10 happiest people that I know. If you want me to name him, he's going to be near the top of the list, if not the top of the list. Another guy I met in the Air Force. He was in the desert with me. And he's a security forces guy. And that guy is definitely the happiest guy. Or at least he faked it. And I tell you, that guy was convincing. There was not a day that went by that he... talking at the gate of how happy he was just to see you and scan your badge would not bring a smile to my face. And some of the people that are watching this are going to know what I'm talking about. But another guy I met in the Air Force who was one of the happiest guys I know. And of course, we Christians like to use lifestyle evangelism from time to time. We don't believe it's the most effective method. And we have apologetics to thank for not necessarily just using lifestyle evangelism. But anyway, he was happy. All the time, every day, almost without fail, this man was happy. And I kept on probing him. I said, hey, are you a Christian? I mean, you say you're always happy. Like, what's your secret? He didn't have a secret for me. He was just a happy individual. He just had a very positive mindset about life. Something that I try to emulate. He's a great guy. I wish him well where he is, and I'm not going to say his name, but he's one of the best guys I ever met. Happiest guy, one of the happiest guys, best guys I ever met in my life. Calm nav, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But he wasn't a Christian at all. He just was happy. He didn't believe in God, but he could be happy too. He could be happy. And that was his choice. He chose to be happy. So we get to hell. We have Pascal's wager. We have hell. And hell is unfair. Hell is straight up unfair. I don't care what wrong you did. I think the Catholics are right on this one a little bit. I actually would agree with a Catholic viewpoint if you forced me into it on this point, for sure. The fact of their purgatory and how you pay for your sins and then move on to heaven actually sounds much more fair to me than the version of hell that I believed in, which was eternity of suffering and pain for finite choices that you make on this world. That's not fair. I don't care if it's a thought crime. I don't care what it is. You mean to tell me that I will burn forever in a lake of fire for finite actions I did or did not do on this earth? That's not fair to anybody. And there are people around the world, of course, that don't hear the story. You talk about it all the time. Don't hear the story, don't know about God. They say that God will be found out to them. That's not necessarily true. You don't know that. What if someone didn't clearly explain it? And then what if it wasn't the right version, as many of you Christians would believe? What if it was a Jehovah's Witness? What if it was a Mormon? What if it was one of them? What if they went and witnessed and the person got saved, but that wasn't real salvation for them, and they're burning in hell right now, and they didn't even hear the opportunity? That's not fair. Fire, I don't even think, and this is going to probably give me some hate, but I don't even think that Hitler and Stalin, I think they should probably burn for a year for every person they killed, which would mean, of course, they burned for 2 million years, 3 million years, whatever. But I think at the end of 2 million to 3 million years, that's probably good enough, right? That's more than enough suffering to equate for the amount of suffering that they caused on this earth, right? Isn't it? Isn't it? Is eternity, which, of course, like we say, is like a second to God, like a poof, like a vapor, is what we do right now seriously that important to affect us for all eternity? Can I deal with a God who let that? And let's talk about the problem of evil. Why does God allow evil in this world? If God is good and holy, why does he allow evil? Oh, to show us the good, because otherwise we wouldn't know. Because, tree of knowledge of good and evil, which, man, don't even get me started, but God does allow a lot of shit to go on this world. A lot. And doesn't seem to do anything about it. Nothing. Why? Why is that? Why would a God use the Bible to communicate with us as well? Did God not have a smartphone? Did God not know that YouTube would be a thing? I mean, that would be awesome to see a God versus anybody debate, right? Omniscient, omnipotent, omnipowerful. If we believe in an infinitely good God exists, what about an infinitely bad God? What about that? Oh, that's absurd. That's not God. Yeah, well, God kills people. God allowed slavery in the Bible. Exodus 21. That's a problem. It's a big one. And no, I don't want to hear about the indentured servitude. That's bullshit. You talk about the nations that they conquered, which again, they were allowed to conquer nations, of course. People just living life. They were allowed to conquer them and enslave them. Kill all the men, all the women who had known a man, children, but keep the virgins for themselves, right? That sounds oddly familiar, huh? I think I heard something about that with 77 virgins, maybe? Yeah, I thought so. And those are their property then. They're enslaved and become property, which can be beaten to an inch of their life. As long as they don't poke out an eye or blow out a tooth, they're okay. They're good to go. You could beat the person within an inch of his life. If he gets up, you're good to go. That's a problem. That's a big problem. Not to mention all the wives. Okay? This is contradictory. All the wives that David and Solomon had. Literally thousands of them. But yet marriage is only between a man and a woman? Come on. You want to talk about this morality? This is not somebody who I want to subscribe to as a morality. I don't want to serve this person. This person that allows slavery, that killed the population of the earth pre-flood. You hear what I'm saying? He killed the population of the earth for things that we would still do today. I don't want to serve that person anymore. I don't want to be a part of his belief system. I don't want to do that anymore. I can't justify it. And because people use his book to justify bad things, that they use his book to do all sorts of nastiness. And then they pray for forgiveness. And God forgives them. And gives them another chance. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But guess what? He's the one who made the rules. As some of the atheists I like to listen to often put, he has to sacrifice himself to himself for himself. Come on. Okay? God's the one who made the rules. God's the one who did this. Okay? That's what you claim. Is what you believe. God could have made it any way he wanted to. God could have made a world without sin. Why do I have to wait for heaven if God could have done that before? Why? Huh? I don't want to serve that God anymore. That's a very hateful and vengeful God in the Old Testament. Just Noah's story alone. But if you take more stories, if you listen to the friendly atheist talk about how many people were killed in the Bible, and his estimates were actually pretty low. Literally, like his estimates were very, like he gave you an evaluated estimate and a literal estimate of how many people that God killed, God smoked in the Bible. God killed them. For what? It just makes me not want to be part of that anymore. It got to the point that I couldn't deceive myself anymore. I couldn't say that I'm a good person if I subscribe to these things. Am I a good person? No. I'm a horrible person. And that was the other problem. I like to be perfect. I like to ascribe to perfection. And the Bible version of perfection that was preached to me in the IFB was so high that I don't know anybody. Very few people. I do know a couple. A very few amount, small amount, that do live up to that standard. But I tell you, you don't want to live their life. It's not a fun life. Is it a good life? Is it fun? No. Oh no, it's not fun at all. But I couldn't live up to it. I got tired of failing. I still fail. I'm always going to fail. Always will. I know that about me. And that's part of learning. I know I'm going to fail. That's okay. Get up. Try again. Do it again. Work harder. Become better. Because this life, this one we know about, it matters. Okay? This one matters right now. The one you're living right now matters. And you decide what to do with that. You're in charge. Yeah, not God. You're in charge. You get to decide how awesome or how unawesome your life can be. And that was the relief. That was the weight was lifted. You say the Baptists have the Jesus will set you free, but no, that's not true. He says his burden is easy. It's not. It's not easy. Living without it is easy. I don't have to worry about all the sins that I commit up in my brain. Thought crimes. I know, thought crimes. Those should be only available for me. I don't even commit real ones. Which is along my point. If you're going to get caught doing something wrong, then do it wrong. Like, get caught for it. You know, do the bad thing that's fun. Enjoy it. Get caught for it. At least, you know, it's better than just thinking about it and being in trouble. But the weight was lifted off my shoulders. I had a weight that I carried for a long time of wanting to be the good Christian, wanting to be the good person, but I can't subscribe to that life. It's too hard. It means I can't have fun. I can't enjoy things. I can't enjoy alcohol, which I don't. I still don't like alcohol, but I drink now. It means I can't enjoy the music I like to listen to. I like to listen to rock music. I like to listen to it. It gets my body tapping, my body moving. I like it. And dancing's in the Bible, by the way. Read Ecclesiastes. But the weight was lifted. I don't have to be a perfectionist. I don't have to subscribe to some standard of morality. I don't have to do it anymore. My life is free. I can do what I want. I can occasionally indulge in adult entertainment. I can go to a strip club sometime. I haven't yet, but I will. I can do things that people do. I can have a good and fun life. I can enjoy it. I can try and help my kids become successful. I can do all those things without Christ. See what I did there? But at the end of it all, it's just too much. The problems that God created himself, and because God created it this way, that's God's fault. It's God's fault. God made me this way. You say God created me. God knew I was going to turn atheist eventually. Like many of the apologists and people that I heard, many of the atheists I've heard, most of which were Christians at one point. A lot of them. They say you want to become an atheist, read the Bible. They're not necessarily wrong. But I didn't subscribe to it anymore. I couldn't live the life of duplicity. I have to be honest with myself. I have to be honest with you, my friends, who I hope at the very end of this long video may still be my friends. I understand some of you will not be, and I understand the reasons for why that is. Because you need people to reaffirm your faith. I don't believe that Christianity or even Islam or other religions are entirely bad. Like I said, my church, Heritage Baptist, I had a lot of good friends there. It was a great community. There's a couple other churches I've been to, including the one here in Kansas. Amazing Grace Baptist Church had a good community there. Pastor Haley's a very nice guy. I like him. I still talk to him from time to time. Not about this, but I still talk to him from time to time. And, he tells me, he prays for me. And I appreciate his thoughts being upon me. And I appreciate thoughts that you've put upon me. I appreciate sending those thoughts back to you. But as I just viewed more and more viewpoints, more and more world points, I became open-minded. I became not closed-minded anymore. I could not see the world through the Christian viewpoint anymore. I couldn't see hatred towards genderism. I couldn't see hatred towards other races. I couldn't see these things. And all the pain that religion has caused my friends, some of my friends, a tremendous deal that I will never know. I couldn't live that life anymore. I had to be honest. And I'm being honest with you. I'm sorry if this hurts you. I know it will. Some of you it will hurt. Some of you will be pained by this. And I understand that. I'm sorry. I have to be truthful. I have to be honest. Mom and Dad, I love you if you're listening to this at the very end of it. I hope we can remain in the relationship we have right now, which I think we can, which is why I'm releasing this. Because I know we won't really talk about religion that much anymore. And this is not to say that I won't darken the door of a church anymore. I'm still open to ideas. That's something that I've decided to keep open, and that's truth. I don't necessarily know that God didn't create the world. I'm not claiming he didn't. That one for me, as far as the Big Bang goes, we don't really know about the origin. And that's an answer I've come to talk about and say a lot more. I don't know. And the atheist, if he's being honest, will tell you he doesn't know. And guess what? That's an acceptable answer. We don't know. This is the best understanding we have of it via the science that we have observed in the world. This is the best understanding of what we see in the world today. This is what scientists get paid for, to debunk this theory. Okay? And it happens all the time. I'm not saying that God didn't make the universe. I don't know. But if he did, I hope that he understands where I'm coming from. If he is a God of compassion and love, I hope he figures out a way to communicate better. I hope he can understand that I do want eternal life. I mean, that's a great gig. It sounds awesome. But I don't want to do it at the cost of slavery. I don't want to do it at the cost of hate for other people. I don't want to do it at the cause of suffering. And I definitely don't want to do it on the cause of death. I don't want to become eternal on the backs of all those heinous things. Including what we did to Jesus, right? I mean, Christian, that's pretty bad. But I'm not going to deny that. So you have a theory for me. You have something that's compelling. I'm more than willing to listen to it. Just be aware, of course, that I went to a Bible college. Be aware that I've heard probably the argument that you're going to bring up. I've listened to it via much more elegant orators than myself. Much more elegant orators than somebody else. Than on the atheist and on the Christian side. So understand that I'm skeptical. I now understand how to ask the good questions, how to seek for evidence, and good evidence that is substantial, evidence that is not based on miraculous, based not on faith as much, not on denying plausibility, evidence that's not infallible, evidence that sometimes can be changed, which is unlike a certain religion that is, as that you like to sing, yesterday, today, forever. Exactly. It's the same. But if there's one thing that I've learned about humans, it's we change. All the time. I am not the same person I am 10 years ago, and all of you are going to say, yes, you're not. But neither are you. And I know that's an ad hoc, or that's a E2 kind of an argument, like, well, so am I, yeah, so you are, yes, I am, so are you. I know you are, but what am I? You know, that kind of an argument. I understand that, but it's the truth. Nobody's the same. Everybody changes. And the Bible even says that God changed his mind. Which brings me to another point, of course, that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. The Bible says that. That's not my words, that's the Bible. God did it. And that was always a problem for me. If God wants people to believe in him, if God wants people to love him, why did he harden Pharaoh's heart? Why make him go through all the plagues? Huh? Does God love Pharaoh? Did God not love the Egyptians? What did they do? Oh, that's right. They fed Israel and Jacob when they didn't have any food. Yeah, you heard right. The Israelis were in Egypt because they didn't have food, and Pharaoh, who was led by Joseph, fed them. But God hardened his heart, another Pharaoh's heart, of course, to show why. Why? Why is that story in there? Why did God kill all the Canaanites? Why did God kill everybody else in the Bible? Why is God killing anyone? If he loves people, why is he killing them? What does that prove? We already know he's powerful, right? We believe that. You believe that for sure. I believe that. If God does exist, then he probably is powerful. Much more powerful than me. I'm weak. But this is the basis of it. I found the Bible to not be accurate historically, scientifically, other ways. And I couldn't lie to myself anymore that the reasons that I initially thought were soundproof, that were the best that we had, just aren't. They're not good enough. They don't stand up to scrutiny. They don't stand up to rationality or even humanism. Even the desire to provide the best good for people. To try and end human suffering, to try and get along, coexist on this world. We need to leave Earth. Our populations are growing, and our resources are dwindling, and we need to get off this rock. We need to work together. We need to reach across any line, get any scientific breakthrough we can. We need to be able to get off Earth in case of a catastrophic event. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we looking out for that? Why has our science stopped? Why aren't we moving in the right direction? I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're looking for the wrong answers. We're looking for answers to affirm or deny a belief and not for the future, which is the biggest gripe I have with creationism and the creation scientists. If what you're doing is actually science, then you should be improving lives. Not trying to prove that the Bible is true, but you should be improving lives now. You should be the leaders in the pharmaceutical industry. You should be the leaders in technology and spaceflight. You should be the leaders in all that. You're not. Even if you can prove things from the Bible are true, which you can. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying it's all wrong. I'm not saying it's all bad. But if you can't do that, if you can do that, then why don't you? Why don't you try to recreate God's miracles? Why aren't you trying to emulate those? Wouldn't it be awesome if you could go in and actually do faith healing as God did? Wouldn't it be awesome if you could make the blind see, the lepers healed, and the lame to walk, and people to see? Are you trying to replicate God's miracles? Because I hope you can. I pray to God that you can. Imagine how awesome the world would be if there was none of that suffering. Imagine how cool that would be. If instead of wondering about whether God made something, you were wondering more about how you could replicate his miraculous things that he doesn't do anymore. Why doesn't God do miracles today? Why isn't an amputee suddenly get his arm back? You can pray for internal healing all you want, and that's great. Fine. But why doesn't God heal the amputee? Why doesn't God do those things and show himself in a miraculous way? Do you think that would change the world if God healed an amputee? Do you don't think that would make the news? We prayed for this amputee that doesn't have his arms and legs. He got him back. God did it. We can't say anything else. Don't you think that would make headline news? And God can do that, right? You believe it. I don't believe it as much anymore. Because if God did that, of course, it would be world-shattering. And God should know, instead of using the Bible to communicate, or the Quran, or the Book of Mormon, or whatever book you believe, if God wanted to communicate, he could just do it, right? He could call me on my cell phone, late night when I need my love. Hotline bling, right? No? God could make a YouTube video. God could communicate clearly and concisely instead of having his words distorted and up to interpretation by any person who interprets it, however they want to interpret it. God couldn't be clear. An all-powerful, infinite being couldn't do that. Make something easy to understand. No. Well, that's enough of my soapbox for tonight. I'm going to try my hardest. I'm not going to say that I'm going to promise, but I'm not going to necessarily hide my atheism from Facebook anymore. I'm not going to try to seek out and bash Christianity. But if I hear a compelling argument, which I know the Christians would be hard to prove, I'm going to post about it. And I'd love to talk about it. And I hope you, even as a Christian, would be willing to engage with me and talk to me about it and listen and give me great ideas, because that's what I'm all about right now. I'm expanding viewpoints, learning things, becoming a better version of myself, becoming the best version of myself that I possibly can be. And that includes listening to stories from the other side. That includes opening up your mind to hear logical, sound arguments and reasons. That's what that includes. And I'm more than willing to be convinced. Okay? But do not come to me with personal experience. Those can be proven false most of the time. Everybody has personal experiences. Okay? That doesn't work. Just doesn't work. It's placebo effect. You can't prove it. I can't prove it. I know you had an experience. You told me you did. But how do I know? How do I know it wasn't just in your head like it's in mine? How do I know I'm not in my head? Anyway. Sorry for the long rant. I hope that you maybe saw it, maybe you don't. It doesn't matter to me. But if you're still my friend at the end of this, then glad to see you here, buddy. Here's to seeing you sometime whenever I see you. Or on Facebook. It's fine, too. I like seeing you there. If you're not my friend, so be it. Sorry to see you go. But that's the way that the cookie crumbles, so to speak. So with that being said, everybody, I'm off to play Konosuba, one of the best mobile games ever. Just kidding, but it isn't. It is a good game. Anyway, I'm off to play, and I will talk at y'all later.